The great hall sparkled like 1,000 stars had been captured inside glass walls. Representatives from 47 different alien species sat in their designated seats, waiting for the meeting to begin. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with their own light. This was the Galactic Council, and today something unusual was happening. Elder Crystal stood at the center. She was ancient beyond measure, her body made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. She had seen empires rise and fall for 10,000 years. Today her light flickered with worry. "I open the archive of warnings," she announced, her voice echoing in every mind present. Whispers filled the chamber. The archive had not been opened in 500 years. It contained the most important lessons the galaxy had learned, written in blood and fire. Ambassador Velcron of the Zrixian Empire stood up. He was young, ambitious, and his blue scales gleamed with pride. "Ancient stories for ancient times, Elder. The galaxy has moved forward. We have evolved." "Have you?" Crystal turned her glowing eyes toward him. "Tell me, young ambassador, what do you know of the humans?" Velcron laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. "They are traders and merchants. They smile and shake hands and make deals. Their military fleet is small. They have grown soft with centuries of peace." "Their visible fleet is small," Crystal corrected him. "But tell me, why do you think they are peaceful?" "Because they are weak," Velcron said confidently. "They build trading ships, not warships. They negotiate, they do not fight. 500 years without a single battle. They have forgotten how to be warriors." Crystal said nothing. Instead, she activated the ancient records. The air filled with images from long ago, from a time called the Border Wars of Kepler 22. The council members watched in growing silence. Human ships appeared on the display, outnumbered 10 to 1 by an attacking force. But instead of running or surrendering, the human vessels moved like dancers in a deadly ballet. Every shot hit its target. Every maneuver was perfect. Every decision was calculated. In less than a day, the attacking force was completely destroyed. The humans had not wasted a single movement, not shown a single moment of hesitation. "The Thelkar Dominion made your mistake," Crystal said quietly. "They saw human trading vessels and thought the humans were weak. So they attacked a human science station. They killed 200 researchers who were studying plants and animals who carried no weapons." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Within 1 month, the Thelkar Dominion ceased to exist as a nation. Not destroyed with bombs. Not conquered with armies. Dismantled piece by piece. Every military base was captured. Every weapon was taken. Every leader was removed from power. And then the humans stopped. They did not take revenge on civilians. They did not occupy Thelkar worlds. They simply removed the threat and walked away." "Impossible," Velcron said, but his voice was less certain now. "That is just propaganda, stories to scare us." "It is history," Crystal replied. "I was there. I watched it happen. The humans are the only species in all of galactic history who nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. They fought wars with weapons that could burn entire planets. They poisoned their own air and water. They created diseases that killed millions of their own kind." The council chamber was completely silent now. "And yet they survived," Crystal continued. "They learned from every mistake. They studied every battle. They mastered the art of war so completely that they finally understood its true cost. So they chose peace. Not because they cannot fight. Not because they do not know how. But because they remember too well what fighting means." Around the chamber, the older species shifted uncomfortably. They remembered the old warnings that were passed down through generations. Never provoke the humans. Never make them choose war. Never mistake their kindness for weakness. But Velcron was young and proud. In his mind, the Zrixian Empire needed to expand. They needed resources. They needed to prove their strength. And there, on the edge of human territory, was a small mining colony on a planet called Arcturus 6. Remote. Lightly defended. Easy to take. "Perhaps," Velcron said slowly, "the old warnings are outdated. Perhaps 500 years of peace has made them soft. Perhaps it is time to test if these stories are true." Crystal felt a deep, ancient sadness settle over her. She had seen this pattern before throughout the long centuries. Pride came before wisdom. Ambition came before caution. Young species always thought they knew better than the old warnings. "I hope," she said quietly, "that you never learn how wrong you are. Because that lesson will cost you dearly." But Velcron had already decided. As the council meeting ended, he sent a secret message to his military commanders. "Begin Operation Talon. Attack the human colony on Arcturus 6. Show the galaxy that humans are nothing to fear. Crystal Lise watched him leave and opened a communication channel to her own observers scattered across the stars. Watch human space carefully. If the Zrixians are foolish enough to attack, record everything. Let the galaxy see what happens when ancient warnings are ignored. Far away in the cold darkness of space, 6 Zrixian warships moved silently toward the human mining colony. Their crews were confident. Their weapons were ready. They believed the humans would surrender without a fight. They believed the old stories were just myths told to frighten children. They were about to learn the truth. And the truth would shake the entire galaxy. The mining colony on Arcturus 6 hummed with normal activity. 3,000 people lived and worked there, extracting valuable minerals from the surrounding asteroids. It was a peaceful place, far from the busy core worlds. Children went to school, parents worked their shifts, and life moved forward in quiet routine. Chief Coordinator Dai Huang sat in his office reviewing daily reports when his assistant, Min Ari, suddenly looked up from her computer screen. Her face had gone pale. "Sir, we have unknown ships at the edge of our system," she said quietly. Dai's fingers moved quickly across his control panel. 6 ships. Military design. Zrixian identification codes. His expression remained calm, but his heart began to beat faster. "Activate Protocol Olympus," he said in a steady voice. Min stared at him in shock. "Sir, that is a war protocol. It has not been used in over 500 years. "I know," Dai replied. "Activate it now." Throughout the colony, a special alarm began to sound. It was not loud or panicked. Instead, it pulsed in a steady rhythm that every human recognized from childhood. That rhythm meant one thing. This is real, this is war, move to your positions. What happened next would have surprised any observer. The colonists did not panic. Parents calmly took their children to reinforced shelters. Engineers locked down critical systems. Workers moved to defensive stations. And from hidden storage areas that had been maintained but never opened, weapons emerged, clean and ready to use. "All defensive positions are ready," reported Officer Yun Taeyong from the Defense Center. "Automated systems online. The Zrixian ships are trying to contact us." "Put them through," Dai said. Velcron's face appeared on the screen, smiling with cruel confidence. "Human colony, you will surrender immediately. If you resist, we will destroy you all. Under Galactic Council law, this is an act of war," Dai replied calmly. "You have 30 seconds to leave our system before we respond with force." Velcron laughed loudly. "Respond? With what?" "Your mining equipment." He cut off the transmission and gave his order. "All ships, open fire." The first missile struck the colony's protective shields. Shields that should not have existed on a simple mining station. The energy barriers glowed bright blue as they absorbed the impacts without breaking. "Return fire," Dai commanded quietly. What the Zrixians thought were simple communication towers suddenly rotated, revealing hidden weapons. What looked like sensor equipment opened up to show defensive guns. The weapons fired with devastating accuracy. 2 Zrixian fighter craft exploded in brilliant flashes before their pilots even understood what was happening. "Impossible." Velcron's voice cracked with shock across all communication channels. "They are just miners." "They are humans," his tactical officer corrected him, watching the display with growing fear. "Sir, their defensive patterns are military grade. These people have been trained for combat." Because they had been. Every human learned basic combat skills as part of their education. Every human colony maintained hidden defenses. Every human remembered the violent history of their species and stayed prepared for the possibility that violence might return. The battle lasted for 6 brutal hours. The Zrixians threw everything they had at the small colony, expecting it to collapse within minutes. Instead, they lost 4 ships before finally breaking through the defenses with sheer numbers and overwhelming firepower. When Zrixian soldiers finally stormed into the colony, they found something that disturbed them deeply. There was no chaos, no panic, no disorder. The humans had fought with cold efficiency. Every defender had covered specific areas. Every civilian was safely secured in prepared shelters. These were not amateurs playing at defense. These were trained people who had simply chosen peaceful lives until peace was taken from them. Dai Huang stood in the command center as Zrixian soldiers burst through the doors. He raised his hands slowly in surrender, but his eyes showed no fear at all. "You have made a terrible mistake," he said calmly. "The mistake was yours, thinking you could fight the Zrixian Empire," Velcron sneered as he entered the room. "No," Dai said quietly. "Your mistake was thinking we were ever truly at peace." As he spoke, he tilted his head slightly to the right, a movement so subtle the Zrixians did not notice its meaning. But that tiny gesture activated a hidden transmitter implanted beneath his skin, sending a message through quantum channels that moved faster than light itself. The message contained only 3 words: they drew first. On Earth, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean in a massive underground facility, Admiral Kim Sora received the message. She had been waiting 500 years for those words, hoping she would never see them. But humanity had learned long ago to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Activate all reserve fleets, she said quietly to her staff. Authorization code, Warhound. Across human space, in hidden bases disguised as research stations and commercial facilities, warships that had waited in silence for half a millennium suddenly came to life. Crews who lived as merchants and teachers and farmers transformed within minutes into the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. Send the ultimatum to the Zrixian Empire, Admiral Kim ordered. The message went out to every species in the galaxy. Admiral Kim's face appeared on billions of screens, her expression calm and cold as ice. This is Admiral Kim Sora of the Human Defense Coalition. 48 hours ago, Zrixian forces attacked our colony without provocation or warning. This is an act of war under Galactic Council law. We demand the immediate return of our people, unharmed. The Zrixian Empire has 48 hours to comply with this demand. She paused, and her next words were spoken softly, but they carried the weight of absolute certainty. If they refuse, they will learn why the elders warned them never to provoke humanity. The countdown began. 48 hours until the deadline. And across the galaxy, the older species who remembered the ancient warnings began evacuating their people from anywhere near Zrixian territory. They knew what was coming. The humans had been provoked. And the galaxy was about to remember what that meant. The 48 hours passed in tense silence. Velcron, feeling confident after his easy victory at Arcturus 6, sent a mocking response that was broadcast across the entire galaxy. The humans make demands? The humans make threats. His laughter echoed through space communication systems. Let them come and try. The Zrixian Empire fears no one, especially not peaceful traders pretending to be warriors. On Earth, deep in the Strategic Command Center, Admiral Kim Sora watched the broadcast without showing any emotion. Around her, military officers waited for orders. They made their choice, said Fleet Commander Park Jiwon quietly. Yes, they did, Admiral Kim agreed. Execute Operation Ghost Protocol. Authorization code, Ragnarok. What happened next would be studied and discussed for the next 1,000 years. At exactly 4 a.m, Galactic Standard Time, human fleets appeared from slipspace at 17 different locations simultaneously. But they did not appear at Arcturus 6 where the Zrixians expected them. Instead, they emerged at every major Zrixian military base, shipyard and command center across the entire empire. The Zrixian defense forces scrambled to respond and immediately discovered their communications were not working properly. Every command channel was flooded with false orders. Tactical displays showed incorrect information. Weapons systems kept running diagnostic programs and would not fire. How is this possible? Velcron stared at his screens as reports flooded in from every corner of the empire. How are they everywhere at once? Our intelligence reports say they only have 300 ships total. Correction, sir, his intelligence officer said, her voice hollow with shock. They have 300 ships that we knew about. Current count shows 1,500 vessels, all military grade. No wait, 2,000. Sir, more ships keep appearing. For 500 years, humanity had been building in secret. Every trading vessel was designed to convert quickly into a warship. Every civilian transport carried hidden weapons. Every research station was actually a military command post. The galaxy had seen only what humanity wanted them to see. Captain Lee Hyun commanded the human warship Remembrance, which had spent the last century disguised as a simple cargo hauler. Now, with her true identity revealed, she positioned her ship above the Zrixian Military Academy on Thorax Prime. Tactical Officer, disable all their defensive systems. Do not destroy anything. I want those students evacuated safely. Captain, we could just eliminate the entire facility in seconds, her weapons officer suggested. I said disable, not destroy, Captain Lee interrupted firmly. Those are young students down there, barely more than children. This is not their war. We are here to make a point, not to commit murder. This pattern repeated across every battle zone. Human forces struck with overwhelming power but surgical precision. Military targets were neutralized completely. But civilians were carefully avoided. Evacuation routes were deliberately left open. Medical facilities were never touched. Schools and hospitals had defense shields placed around them by human forces. On the Zrixian homeworld, Supreme Commander Rakthor watched in growing horror as his empire's military infrastructure crumbled in mere hours. Every shipyard was disabled. Every fleet base was captured or destroyed. Every command center was occupied by human soldiers who moved like ghosts, appearing where they should not be able to go. "How did they get inside our computer systems?" he demanded desperately. "Sir," his cyber warfare chief reported with a trembling voice, "they did not infiltrate recently. They have been inside our networks for centuries. Every computer system we purchased, every communication device we use, every piece of civilian technology we bought from human traders, all of it contained hidden code. We have been compromised since before this war even started. Because humanity had learned patience. They had learned that the best weapon was not always the biggest gun. Sometimes it was a tiny piece of computer code planted decades before it would ever be needed." Admiral Kim watched the tactical displays from Earth. 17 hours since the operation began. Zrixian military capability reduced by 92%. Human casualties, 14 wounded, 0 dead. "Ma'am, we have a transmission from Elder Crystal Lise," her communications officer reported. The ancient Varnti Elder's crystalline form appeared, glowing with what might have been approval. "You remember the old lessons well, Admiral?" "We never forgot them, Elder," Kim replied softly. "We just hoped we would never need to use them again." "The Zrixian homeworld defenses have completely fallen," Fleet Commander Park reported. "We have clear paths to their capital city. We could strike the government buildings directly." Admiral Kim nodded slowly. She opened a communication channel that would reach every human ship currently in battle. "All units, cease offensive operations immediately. Hold your current positions. Switch to defensive protocols only." She changed to a frequency that would broadcast to every ship, every station, every world in Zrixian space. "Supreme Commander Rakthor, this is Admiral Kim Sora. We have neutralized your military capacity. We can reach your homeworld. We can reach your capital. We can reach you personally." She paused deliberately. "But we will not. Return our people from Arcturus 6 within 12 hours, unharmed, and we will withdraw our forces. Your civilians have not been touched. Your cities have not been invaded. We have no interest in conquest or revenge. We seek only justice." Her voice became harder. "This is our final offer. You have 12 hours to comply." On the Zrixian homeworld, Rakthor looked at his remaining advisors. He looked at the displays showing human fleets holding position just outside strike range of every major population center. He looked at reports showing that human forces had avoided civilian casualties even when it would have been easier to simply destroy everything. They could have annihilated us completely, he realized with growing horror. They could have reduced our worlds to ash and dust. But they chose not to. "Find Ambassador Velkron," he ordered quietly. "Bring him to me in chains. And contact the humans immediately. Tell them we accept their terms. We will return their people." In the cold darkness of space, Velkron watched his empire crumble around him. And for the first time in his life, he understood what the ancient elders had been trying to warn them about. The humans were not dangerous because they knew how to fight. They were dangerous because they knew how to win without becoming monsters. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber was filled with representatives from all 47 species, everyone talking at once. Fear and confusion spread through the room like wildfire. The humans have violated galactic peace laws. But the Zrixians attacked first without provocation. This level of hidden military power is unacceptable. Order. Elder Crystallis's voice cut through the chaos like a sharp blade. The chamber fell completely silent. "You want to know why the humans were allowed to keep their military secrets? I will show you the truth." She activated the historical archives again. This time the images showed Earth itself. Human history played out in brutal, horrifying detail. Humans fighting humans. Cities burning. Nuclear weapons destroying entire regions. Biological warfare. Chemical attacks. Genocide. "Look carefully," Crystalise said. "This is the only species in galactic history to nearly destroy themselves not once, but repeatedly. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that poisoned their own planet. And yet..." The images shifted to show human cooperation, human kindness, human innovation rising from the ashes. They learned. They adapted. They did what no other species has ever done. They mastered their own violent nature. A representative from the Thex coalition stood angrily. "This does not justify hiding such massive military power from the Council. Does it not?" Admiral Kim Sora's voice came from the chamber entrance. She walked in still wearing her combat uniform with Fleet Commander Park at her side. When we joined this council 500 years ago, we shared our complete history. Every war, every mistake, every horror we committed. And we made a promise: we would be peaceful partners. We would help build a better galaxy. But we would never ever be victims again. She activated her personal display, showing the tactical map of the recent operation. Operation Ghost Protocol neutralized the entire Zrixian military in 17 hours. Their casualties: 6,000 soldiers killed, 12,000 wounded. All combat personnel, no civilians. She looked around the chamber. Do you know what our casualties would have been in the old days, centuries ago? Millions dead. We would have burned their planets and called it victory. But you did not do that, observed Ambassador Chindar of the Peaceful Lumina Collective. No, Admiral Kim said firmly. Because 500 years ago we learned the most important lesson. The greatest strength is not the ability to destroy. It is the ability to choose not to destroy. We call it the old soldier's doctrine: peace through overwhelming preparedness, mercy through absolute strength. On her tactical display she showed current human fleet positions throughout the galaxy. Right now, at this very moment, we could conquer half the galaxy. Our forces are already in position. Our technology is centuries ahead of what we previously revealed. We could rule over you all. She paused, letting that terrifying truth sink in. We will not. Because we learned what empire costs. We learned it through blood and suffering on our own world. The chamber was deathly silent. The humans frighten you, Crystal Lee said quietly. Good. They should frighten you. But not because they are warriors. Because they are warriors who chose to become something better. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. What now? Admiral Kim checked her tactical feed and her face hardened. Velkron, that absolute fool. The display showed a small Zrixian fleet, Velkron's personal loyalists who refused to surrender, breaking away from the main force. They were heading directly toward Earth itself. 16 warships. Enough firepower to cause catastrophic damage to an undefended planet. He is attempting a suicide strike, Fleet Commander Park said grimly. He would rather die taking humans with him than accept defeat with honor. What defense forces do you have around Earth? Asked Chindar with concern. Currently, most of our fleet is deployed in Zrixian space, Admiral Kim said, her jaw tight. We have one carrier group in the Sol system. The Valiant, commanded by Captain Choi Minwo. 16 enemy ships against one of ours. Can one ship stop 16? Someone asked fearfully. Admiral Kim's expression became cold and determined. Captain Choi is about to show the entire galaxy what one human carrier can do when properly motivated. In the Sol system, Captain Choi Minwo watched the Zrixian fleet approach on his displays. He was young for a carrier captain, only 35 years old, but he had trained his entire life for this exact moment. The moment every human officer hoped would never come but always prepared for. All hands to battle stations. Launch all fighter wings. Authorization code, Warhound Final. The massive carrier came alive with activity. Fighter craft poured from its launch bays like angry insects defending their hive. But these were not the simple interceptors the galaxy knew about. These were advanced combat vehicles, each one carrying enough firepower to threaten a heavy cruiser. We are outnumbered 16-1, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Shin Nari, said calmly. Poor odds, Captain Choi agreed with a slight smile. For them. Remember what they taught us at the academy? It is not about the size of your fleet. It is about the skill of your people. And we are human. We have been fighting wars since before we invented writing. This is what we do best. What followed was a masterclass in tactical warfare. The Valiant's fighter wings did not engage the enemy directly in simple combat. They herded the Zrixian ships like sheepdogs controlling a flock. They feinted and dodged, drawing the enemy vessels into carefully prepared killing zones where the carrier's massive weapons could strike with perfect precision. Sir, they are trying to split up and overwhelm us with numbers, Shin reported. Let them try, Captain Choi said confidently. Execute combat pattern Delta 7. The human fighters broke into precisely coordinated teams, each team flowing like water around their targets. They did not try to destroy the Zrixian ships. Instead, they disabled them with surgical strikes. Engines hit and destroyed. Weapons systems melted. Communication arrays blown apart. Every shot placed with perfect accuracy. This is impossible. Velkron's voice cracked across the communication channels. 16 ships. How can one vessel defeat 16? Captain Choi opened a direct channel to Velcron. Because, Ambassador, we are not just warriors. We are humans. We have spent 10,000 years learning how to fight and survive. You have spent your time conquering species weaker than yourselves. There is a very big difference between the two. One by one the Zrixian ships went dark. Not destroyed. Not vaporized. Simply disabled, drifting helplessly in space with their crews alive but defeated. Final target is the flagship, Captain Choi ordered. Disable it. I want Velcron alive to face trial. The Valiant closed in on the last Zrixian ship. Velcron tried desperately to run. He tried to fight back. He even tried to activate his ship's self-destruct system. And found that every single system on his ship had been locked out by human cyber warfare that had infiltrated his vessel the moment he entered the Sol system. Send boarding teams, Captain Choi commanded. Ambassador Velcron, you are going to stand trial for war crimes. You will face justice. Not revenge. Not execution. Justice under galactic law. Back in the council chambers, every representative watched the battle unfold on the massive displays. They watched one human carrier systematically defeat 16 warships without destroying a single vessel or killing a single crew unnecessarily. How is this possible? Someone whispered in awe and fear. Because, Crystal Lee said softly, humans do not just practice war. They perfect it. They study it. They master every aspect of it. And then, most terrifying of all, they choose to use restraint even in victory. Admiral Kim received the update from Captain Choi. Velcron is in custody. All Zrixian forces have surrendered across the entire empire. The colonists from Arcturus 6 are being released and are unharmed. Total duration of the conflict, 96 hours from start to finish. She looked around the council chamber at the stunned faces. Now then, who would like to discuss peace terms and how we move forward from this? The war was over in 96 hours. Humanity had demonstrated what 500 years of apparent peace had hidden. A military force so advanced and prepared that it ended the conflict before most species even understood what was happening. The Galactic Council met again with a different atmosphere. Fear had been replaced by something more complex. Respect mixed with deep caution and understanding. Supreme Commander Rakthor of the Zrixian Empire stood before the assembly, no longer proud but humble. Behind him, wearing restraints, stood Ambassador Velcron, who had started this disaster. The Zrixian Empire accepts complete responsibility, Rakthor said, his voice heavy with shame. We attacked without reason. We underestimated badly. We were absolutely wrong. But why? Ambassador Chindar asked the question everyone wanted answered. Elder Crystalise, you knew the truth about humans. The Varnti have always known. Why did you not force us to understand? Crystallis's crystalline form pulsed with ancient light. Because true understanding must be earned through experience, not simply given through words. But perhaps now you are finally ready to comprehend what humans really are. She activated the central display, showing not military data this time, but something far more profound. Earth's complete history appeared, from the first primitive stone tools to the first starships reaching into space. When humans first reached our worlds 5 centuries ago, Crystalise began, we studied them as we do all new species. We examined their culture, biology, and history. She paused meaningfully. What we discovered terrified us to our very core. The display showed human warfare. Thousands upon thousands of conflicts spanning their entire evolution. Every species in this council evolved facing challenges, Crystalise continued. The Theks had deadly predators hunting them. The Lumina had terrible storms destroying their homes. The Zrixians had volcanic eruptions threatening their survival. But in every case you fought against something external to yourselves. Something outside your own species. The display shifted to show peaceful species naturally working together against their environmental threats. Humans, Crystalise said heavily, had only themselves as their greatest enemy. The images showed tribal warfare, nations destroying nations, ideologies battling ideologies. Weapons of unimaginable horror used against their own kind. They are the only species in all recorded galactic history to nearly make themselves extinct not once, but multiple times through their own actions. Nuclear weapons that could destroy continents. Biological warfare that killed millions. Chemical weapons that poisoned the land. Environmental destruction that nearly made their planet uninhabitable. All self-inflicted. All barely survived. Then why did you allow such a violent species into the council? Someone demanded. Because, Admiral Kim Sora said, stepping forward, we learned from every mistake. Every species here evolved by conquering their environment, their predators, their natural challenges. We evolved by conquering ourselves, our own worst instincts. And that is a far harder victory to achieve. She gestured at the display which now showed human cooperation. The formation of the United Earth Government. The voluntary destruction of weapons of mass annihilation. The establishment of the Defense Coalition based on protection, not aggression. We did not forget how to fight, Admiral Kim continued. We remembered too well. Every human child learns our complete history, the good and the terrible. Every human knows what we are capable of doing. And we made a choice as an entire species to be better than our worst nature. But you kept your military power secret, Rakthor said quietly. You let us believe you were weak and harmless. No, Fleet Commander Park Jiwon corrected firmly. We let you believe we were peaceful. Those are two completely different things. Peace is not weakness. It is a choice we make consciously every single day. Velkron, who had been silent until now, laughed bitterly. A choice you kept until someone gave you an excuse to reveal your true violent nature. Admiral Kim turned to face him directly, her eyes hard as steel. Our true nature? You attacked a colony of 3,000 civilians without warning. You killed 217 innocent people. You took the rest as hostages. And in response, we neutralized your entire military in less than 4 days. She leaned closer. Our true nature in the old days would have been to turn your homeworld into a dead, lifeless rock floating in space. The fact that I am standing here negotiating peace instead of planning your species' extinction? That is also our true nature. Both exist within us. We simply choose which one guides our actions. Captain Choi Minwo, who had traveled from Earth, spoke up. We have an old saying from our history, walk softly and carry a big weapon. We changed it over time. Now we say, build for peace, prepare for war, and choose wisdom to guide the path between them. Crystal Lise pulsed with approval. When humans first shared their complete history with us, they did it as an act of both trust and warning. They said this is what we were. This is what we could become again. This is what we choose to be moving forward. And they asked us to hold them accountable to that choice. The old soldier's doctrine, Lieutenant Shin Nari added. Our most sacred founding principle. Those who have truly experienced war's horror are most qualified to prevent future wars. Those who can fight most effectively are most obligated to seek peace first. And those who possess overwhelming power bear the greatest responsibility to show restraint and mercy. The council chamber remained silent as deep understanding finally settled over everyone present. So what happens now? Chinnar asked carefully. The humans have demonstrated their true strength. What prevents them from using it to dominate us all? Admiral Kim looked around the chamber slowly. The same thing that has prevented us for 500 years. The same thing that stopped us from annihilating the Zrixian homeworld when we easily could have. Choice, conscience, memory. She paused. We remember what happens when power is used without restraint or wisdom. We remember the ashes of our own cities. We remember the cost paid in innocent blood. And we absolutely refuse to forget those lessons. She turned to Supreme Commander Rakthor. Our terms are simple and fair. Return all territory you took from independent worlds. Pay reparations to families of those killed at Arcturus 6. Accept 1 century of council oversight on military development. And most importantly, teach your children what you learned here. Make absolutely certain they never forget this lesson. Rakthor bowed his head in acceptance. Agreed. All terms accepted without question. As for Velkron, Admiral Kim said, looking at the disgraced ambassador, he will stand trial. Not a human trial where we might seek revenge. A proper Galactic Council trial. Let the entire galaxy judge his actions fairly. We want justice, not vengeance. The Council voted unanimously. The peace terms were accepted. A new agreement called the Human Accord was created, recognizing humanity's military capabilities but trusting their continued choice for peace. 6 months later, on Arcturus 6, the colony had been completely rebuilt. Children played happily in gardens while their parents returned to mining work. A simple memorial stood in the central square, a plain stone listing 217 names of those lost. Coordinator Dae Huang stood before it with his young daughter Sumi beside him. Why did they attack us, father? She asked innocently. Because they thought we were weak, Dae explained gently. They forgot an important truth that the elders tried to teach them. What truth? That the strongest people are not those who always fight. The strongest are those who could fight, who know exactly how to fight but choose peace instead. And when peace is stolen from them, they do not lose themselves to blind rage and hatred. They remember who they are and what they stand for. Are we strong, father? Dae looked at the memorial, then at the rebuilt colony, then at his daughter's curious innocent face. "We are humans, Sumi. We are strong enough to protect what truly matters. We are wise enough to know when fighting is necessary and when forgiveness is better. And we are brave enough to choose peace even when war would be easier. Will they ever attack us again?" "No," Day said with absolute certainty. "Because now they finally remember what the elders tried to teach them. Never provoke the humans. Not because we are cruel or evil, but because we are extremely thorough at whatever we do. Not because we want war, but because when we have absolutely no choice, we are terrifyingly good at it." In the council chambers far away, a new inscription had been added to the sacred archive of warnings. Crystalise had written it herself in letters of light. "Beware the peaceful species, for they chose peace not from weakness but from hard-won strength. They chose restraint not from inability but from wisdom. They chose mercy not from ignorance of war's true nature but from intimate knowledge of its horror. The greatest danger comes not from those who always fight, but from those who desperately never want to fight, until you give them absolutely no other choice. Remember this truth. Remember the humans. Remember what happens when you break the peace of those who paid in rivers of blood to earn it." The galaxy had finally learned its lesson. The ancient elders had been right all along. And humanity, having reminded everyone why old warnings should never be ignored, quietly returned to their work of building, trading, and living peacefully among the stars. But now everyone knew the truth. Beneath that peaceful surface lived a species that had mastered war so completely, they had earned the right to choose peace. And that made them both the most dangerous species in the galaxy and the most necessary.